Boxing truth here. Been meaning to talk about Chris Eubank Jr. for the longest. Just haven't been able to bang out the story, so I might as well do it now while I'm watching a shellacking of the Green Bay Packers getting their asses handed to them by Atlanta Falcons. So I might as well just bang out this long overdue story with Chris Eubank Jr. And frankly, I'm disappointed in the move. Yes, it's an intriguing venture that he's going through. He's going to be showcased on ITV pay-per-view. The network's going to get involved in boxing for quite some time. And you have to give a round of applause to Eubank Jr.'s father. Just how the hell did he pull this off? He was actually able to convince the suits at ITV to put on a showcase fight on pay-per-view. Have the British boxing public pay for what's going to be a guaranteed win for Eubank Jr. Either the suits at ITV don't know shit about boxing, or Senior has somehow been able to convince or dupe into thinking that Eubank Jr. is the greatest boxing show on earth. And Eubank Jr. is definitely one of the most exciting fighters in the game. I mean, Eubank Jr., you got it, bro. You have that showmanship that a lot of fighters in boxing lack. You have that aura about you. You got the personality, you got the look, you got the fighting style. You really have the tools to be a big star in the world of boxing. But it's just too bad your father won't put you in with anybody tough. It's too bad that you keep fighting novice level fighters. It's too bad you're pretty much just a glorified showcase fighter. You're the most intriguing showcase fighter in boxing, but that's all you do, man. I'm a fan, bro, but you making me look like a chump being a fan of you. All you do is fight novice level fighters. And now you trying to sell the public a fake world title. You're going to fight for the IBO super middleweight world title. Man, what fighters out there is gunning for IBO straps? Who's gunning for those straps in boxing? They're looking for the green belts. They're looking for the WBA, the IBF. Shit, the WBO is getting more recognition by the day. Bunch of big names carrying that WBO strap. And look at you, vying for an IBO world title being held by some guy named Ronald Quinlan. Hey, who the fuck is that guy when that fight was first mentioned? Nobody knows who this guy is. This 11-1 Australian fighter who knocked out a chop-worn Daniel Geale and now holds the IBO strap. I don't count that belt, even though the ranking system is somewhat respected. The sanctioning bodies don't recognize the IBO title. So if Eubank, once he wins this fight and he's talking about unifications, he needs to realize that the sanctioning bodies don't recognize the IBO strap, and they won't recognize it as a unification fight. But for your fight on February 4th, it's another similar opponent, just a heavy bag, a guy who will come forward and make you look good. That's all the type of opponents Eubank Jr. has been fighting. Stationary targets, guys that stand in front of Eubank so he could land his devastating combinations and trademark uppercuts and make him look good. And that's all he's been fighting. What's his record? 22-1, 23-1? But who you beat though? 23 white guys in the UK? That's the thing, man. You got the tools to really be a big star, a superstar. You have it, man. You got what it takes to be a star. But your father, he's gonna milk it for as long as he can. He's gonna protect you for as long as he can. It's all bullshit when it comes to Eubanks. Just look how they vacated the British title, trying to say that they didn't want to hurt the domestic level opponents that they were fighting. They didn't want to put the prospective opponents in danger for Junior, who was going to defend the title against Langford, but he gave that up because he didn't want to fight Tommy Langford. He didn't want to be fighting a Frank Warren promoted fighter. Didn't want to go to that situation. Also, Langford has a type of style that doesn't really suit Eubank. Still, Eubank possibly still could have whooped him, but we'll never know now, will we? So now you're gonna fight a similar type of opponent you've been fighting, a guy that's just gonna stand in front of you, be a stationary target, so you can throw your combinations and uppercuts. But the thing is, Eubank, what's next, man? Are you gonna fight somebody real? Why'd you move out of the division where the biggest money fights are there to be made? Yeah, sure, you stated that you're gonna still compete at 160 or 168, but all the bigger fights are at 160 pounds. It's never good to just bounce in between divisions, just go up and down. Could really do something to you physically. So you need to make up your mind and stay at a division and just campaign there. I would rather you stay at 160 pounds. Those are the bigger fights to be made. There's a rematch to be made, but it'll be difficult to make, of course. There's a fight with Golovkin. There's a Canelo fight. A lot bigger money fights for you there. There's only one fight for you at 68, and it's actually a fight that your father is actually confident that you can win. Your father has a pretty good idea of who you cannot beat. I also have a pretty good idea of who you cannot beat. But if you're going to stay at 168, after you drop Ronald Quinlan, you should definitely pursue this fight because it's actually a winnable fight for you. And considering the history and considering what went down in the sparring sessions, Junior, you should definitely be gunning for James DeGale. After that great ass whooping DeGale received from Battle Jack, he's never going to be the same. He was never that good to begin with, so he's only going to be far worse after that ass whooping Battle Jack put on him. But that's a fight you can definitely win. It's a fight you should definitely be gunning for. It's a fight your father will actually let you participate in because he has a good feeling that you can whip James DeGale too. I'm pretty sure he was there during the sparring sessions when you put it on DeGale a few years back when you was in your prospect days. But now you're a contender, but you're still fighting these novice level fighters. Only this time you're fighting an Australian novice fighter who has less than 13 fights. But it's an interesting venture. You're gonna be building your own platform. You're straying away from the other big time promoters in the UK. You're doing your own thing. You're trying to go in your own route, and that's fine. I mean, that's cool. And you're somehow able to convince the suits at ITV that you pay-per-view worthy, no matter the opponent. It's not like the pay-per-view's expensive. It's only what, £10, so it's like $15. It's not really much of a card. It's mostly showcase fights. Name guys like David Price fighting gatekeepers like a Christian Hammer. Uh, Kid Gallahan fighting. He's fighting a Becco, chop worn guy, coming off inactivity. Hasn't really fought much since the Rigondeaux fight. Who else is on the card? A few fights, but they're all nothing really jumps out at the eye from the card. It's mostly showcase fights, learning fights, get back wins, and of course, the most glorified showcase fighter in the main event, Chris Eubank Jr., fighting for the IBO Super World title. But man, bro, you need to step up already. But your father's gonna milk it as long as he can. But hopefully that fight with DeGale is possible. It can happen, but it just seems like negotiations for that fight will be extremely difficult to make. You guys will, once you win that IBO title, you're gonna treat it as some world title. So you're gonna make outrageous demands during negotiations. I already know how this is gonna go. The Eubanks are already deluded. They'll even be more delusional once Junior has an IBO world title around his waist. You think it was difficult to do business with them beforehand? Once Junior has some hardware, it's even gonna be more difficult. And I can envision even more glorified showcase fights on IT pay-per-view. And who knows when, if ever, Eubank Jr. will finally take a real fight. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.